RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel joins me now. Ronna, Biden tried to tout his national COVID plan for testing after his comments caught fire, but the White House says that the president, on vacation in Delaware, of course, won't be signing the contract for those 500 million at-home tests until late next week. Obviously, that means they're not going to get in people's hands for several weeks. What do you make of all this?
Well, the Biden administration has been caught flat-footed, but let's not forget what Joe Biden ran on. He ran on stopping the virus, getting rid of COVID. This was the number one issue in his campaign for president. And now he's saying we're going to have a winter of death and despair. Oh, it's not the federal government's fault. It's states. It's a states issue. It's such a failure. And then the testing failure. This is something the Biden administration should have seen. They should have known that we were going to have people traveling, and so many people can't get tests. I know I've been to CVS many times. We had family in town. Everybody's been looking for these tests, and the Biden administration failed yet again.
Yeah, you look back on the events of this year and you think about how President Trump handled COVID. Obviously, it was a new virus. We knew nothing about it. We had no tests, no vaccines. He worked with the private sector. He really pushed to make sure that those things were there and essentially handed those tools over to this administration. Therapeutics were out there as well. All they had to do was ramp up the supplies just to make sure that we had enough for everybody. They pushed real hard on vaccines, but seemed to drop the ball on everything else.
They absolutely did. And the Trump administration did a Herculean effort. They got PPE. They got the testing done. They got vaccines. They made sure that the therapeutics were available. All of that was done, and he handed it to Biden, and Biden dropped the ball. It was a major fumble. And now we're in a position where more people are having COVID. More people have died of COVID under Biden's watch than in 2020 with a vaccine. On so many levels, the Biden administration is a failure, not just with COVID. The border was secure when Trump left office. Our cities were secure. We were backing the blue. We had low gas prices. We didn't have a supply chain issue. We didn't have inflation. We had an economy that was on the rise. Trump handed all this to Biden in a short year. One short year, it has all been squandered.
Yeah, not to mention that debacle withdrawal from Afghanistan as well. So stepping back to look at the broader picture when it comes to President Biden amid this crisis and many others, as we just underscored, Biden's approval ratings continue to fall. A new Gallup poll shows that he's now polling below key government officials, even his vice president, Kamala Harris. You've got at least 23 House Democrats running for the exits, not seeking re-election next year. Is there a red wave, in your opinion, in the midterms?
I do. I think there is going to be a red wave. I think we're going to flip the House and the Senate because the American people recognize that Democrats have failed at every level. And Joe Biden's approval numbers are low for a reason. And I'm going to say this. He is not an absent commander in chief. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't care. He doesn't care to go to the border. He doesn't care about the problems that the American people are facing. He hasn't had a press conference in close to 60 days. This is a president who has chosen to turn his back on the American people, and the American people are suffering under his watch. And that's why we need Republicans to take the reins of leadership in 2022.
And it's interesting, too, Ronna, because, you know, he ran as Joe Biden, the more moderate Democrat, and yet now we see him throughout the course of the year seemingly bowing down to the progressive elements in his party. And that's not what most voters voted for. If they wanted that, they would have chosen somebody else.
Yeah, he says so many things and governs a totally different way. He said he was going to work across the aisle. He hasn't. He said he was going to work in a bipartisan way with the vaccines to get that distributed to the American people. He hasn't. I mean, he has been such a failure. But the thing that's most upsetting, and I think for most Americans, is how silent he's been as people have suffered, as people have worried about their family members, as inflation has risen, as all of us are dealing with supply chain issues. He's been silent. And he started that with Afghanistan when he was silent as family members were being left behind. This is a president who's turned his back on the American people. He got what he wanted. He wanted to be president, and he doesn't care about the rest of us.
Ronna, Senator Lindsey Graham says that President Trump's got the Republican nomination in 2024 if he wants it. And then you've got Joe Rogan predicting that Michelle Obama would beat him if she ran. Your take on Trump as the Republican nominee and the thought of him running against Michelle Obama in 2024, although she hasn't said anything about that kind of run?
Well, every poll has President Trump in the lead by far in our party, and pretty much every person who's looking at 2024 has said they wouldn't run if President Trump runs. But that's so far off. We have to win the midterms first. The Democrats have tried to federalize elections 4 times this year. If they get their way, if we do not win back the House and the Senate, they will pull it away from the states, and they will make it impossible for a Republican to win in 2024. So the midterms is the whole game right now. Everyone needs to get engaged to make sure we win back the House and the Senate.
Yeah, and you see what happened in Virginia with Glenn Youngkin as well, and you think to yourselves that voters, they've stood back, they've watched the carnage this year, even though the president says it was a great year as far as the economy is concerned, but they're feeling it, and these are the conversations they're having at the kitchen table, and so you just hope in the local elections that people get out there, they make sure their voice is heard.
Yeah, we need everyone to get involved. Democrats bring everything to the table. They want nothing more than power. That's what they care about. And they will do anything to retain it. And so Republicans have to be grassroots. We have to talk to our neighbors. You've got to get involved. Go to GOP.com. This is a midterm where we have to take back the House and the Senate. If we don't, we already know what the Democrats will do because we've seen it in 1 year. They have destroyed our economy. Inflation is on the rise. We have supply chain issues. Our border is not secure. We are kowtowing to Russia and China. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Ronna McDaniel, thank you so much. Always great to see you, and I want to wish you a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.